Mitski is one of my all-time favorite artists and has had an absolutely insane career until now. But in 2014, she released what I believe is her magnum opus, an inventive and fresh indie rock classic, exploring growing up and the angst that comes with it, first love and first heartbreak, depression, and more, all wrapped into an album named after a Simpsons quote.
Bury me at Makeout Creek.
Mitski started her extensive career in 2012 with the release of her debut Lush, which was a short and brief debut that absolutely still packed a punch, with songs that would later prove to be a staple in her discography, like Liquid Smooth, Brand New City, and Real Men. Even then, she was already showcasing her poetically melancholic and angry songwriting, and interest in pushing boundaries, and it put her on the map for many right away. Since then, she has released 7 full studio albums, all varying in genre and style, with her 8th album, Nothing's About to Happen to Me, on the way in a couple weeks. And to celebrate that release, I've decided to do a track-by-track breakdown, going over my interpretations of all the themes and concepts explored in her classic, Bury Me at Makeout Creek, which is one of my all-time favorite albums.
It's beautiful today.
The album opens somberly with Texas Resnikoff, as she reflects back on a past relationship, one she still clearly thinks fondly of.
I've been anywhere and it's not what I want. I wanna be still with you.
The beautiful weather reminding her of the time she shared with him, making her reminisce. Mitski immediately displays her immense vocal talent, especially when it comes to evoking emotion, with the first verse being delivered in this defeated, yearning tone that grips you right away, before the song starts to build in the back end, with the guitars coming in and the vocals getting angrier, cluing us in on the sound the majority of what's to come will follow, as she closes the track relating this past lover to being the breeze in her Austin nights, the relief in her troubled times. The following track, Townie, is a classic angsty coming-of-age anthem that feels like it's almost a parody of the angsty emo tunes of the late 90s and early 2000s, as she talks about the youth's harmful self-destructive tendencies and general disdain for parental figures. The chorus calling back to the reoccurring themes of failed and toxic relationships, as she ties the themes of angsty teens and their often dangerous tendencies, in this case the act of rushing into relationships as a need to fit in, with the themes of abuse and violence in relationships that acts as a consistent through line through the album. As in the chorus, whenever she talks about love, it's followed up with violent imagery. First Love, Late Spring is the perfect embodiment of desperation, codependency, and the naivety of first love, with the rushed and emotionally depleted chorus where Mitski poetically displays true desperation, feeling confused emotionally, loving this person so intensely she wants him to leave her to relieve this strong desire. This need runs so deep that she pleads for him to hurt her to the point she contemplates taking her own life, just so he can then console her.
One word from you and I would jump off of this ledge I'm on, baby. Tell me don't so I can crawl back in.
Mitski follows First Love, Late Spring up with the second most popular song from the album, Francis Forever, which kind of feels like a continuation of First Love, Late Spring, showing the aftermath of that relationship, as she is again in this desperate vocal tone, as she states she doesn't know how she's supposed to move on from this relationship.
I don't know what to do without you. I don't know where to put my hand.
As she, in the chorus, explains that she doesn't care how she's perceived by anyone but this person, but she cannot see herself moving on and living in a world where they are no longer together.
I don't need the world to see that I've been the best I can be. I don't think I could stand to be where you don't see me.
Mitski again uses the reoccurring metaphor of seasons and weather, as she relates autumn coming before you're ready to move on from the joy and sunshine of summer, to her not being ready to move on from this relationship.
Autumn comes when you're not yet done with the summer passing by.
I Don't Smoke is one of the most devastating songs on the entire album, but also might just be my favorite. It is angrier and heavier than anything we've heard yet, and Mitski's vocals are more washed out in the mix to contribute to the atmosphere, as she narrates the experience of loving someone, being dependent on them, despite knowing they are toxic and abusive.
If you need to be mean, if your hands need to break more than trinkets in your room, you can lean on my arm as you break my heart.
Relating this experience to smoking, it is detrimental to your health and can wind up killing you, but it is addictive and in the moment it feels good and relieving. Jobless Monday is on the surface one of the simpler tracks, but as you dive a little deeper and pull back the layers, the complexities start to show. On this track, Mitski uses the writing technique of basically saying something that can just as likely support two completely different ideas, making the tone in which you interpret this wildly different depending on the person. It's a writing trope she uses pretty consistently throughout her work, and I eat it up every time. For example, the opening lines of the song,
Can't afford to buy my food or the drive I need to go further than they set out to go.
could be literal. She can't afford the food or gas she needs, but at the same time, the use of the word drive could shift it to becoming more about lack of motivation to do these simple tasks. Something that people who suffer from depression often have. And if you carry this tone throughout the whole track, it becomes something different entirely, which, with the album's themes of depression and suicide, it becomes more and more likely. The next track, Drunk Walk Home, is pretty brief and self-explanatory lyrically, but that doesn't stop it from being probably the most visceral and upsetting track on the entire album. It places Mitski on a drunk walk home after a horrible and unsuccessful night, as all this built-up anger and frustration with the world in general comes spilling out, and she states she's given up and given in. In this drunken rage, she comes to the realization that she will never be free. Free from this person or relationship, free from societal rules and obligations, the need for money, depression, all these things. And she has decided she will retire at the Salton Sea, which is a small and overly polluted sea in California, where due to the pollution, dead fish wash ashore in massive quantities. You can see where Mitski was going with this line. The track closes with the lo-fi distorted drums and guitars at full effect, and Mitski, deep in the mixing, screaming her lungs out. I Will is a deceptively sweet love song with beautifully tender and endearing lyrics about the mundane parts of a relationship that end up meaning the most. Carrying their worries on your shoulder and shielding them from pain, comforting them, and letting them know there's always good on the other side of turmoil. But the pleasant facade starts to get washed away when you find out Mitski herself said she wanted to write a love song, but didn't have anyone to write it about, so she ended up just writing what she wished someone would say to her. That added knowledge makes this one of the most quietly devastating songs off the album for me. The following, Carry Me Out, is one I don't have a ton to say about. It seems to be centered on the loss of a loved one, but with some lines in the second verse, it could also be definitely taken as another portrayal of hopelessness. Mitski wanting to be carried out in the sense of a task needed to be taken care of. This brings us to the closing track, Last Words of a Shooting Star. A track where Mitski uses the common occurrence of turbulence on a flight and the disarray it can cause to tie in all the album's themes of depression. This song almost feeling like a suicide note, as in the frightfulness of the turbulence, Mitski believes she is going to die, but feels at peace knowing this. Reflecting on her life and the way she left things.
I am relieved that I left my room tidy.
Before she closes the album on the last words of a shooting star.
Goodbye.
And that is Bury Me at Makeout Creek by Mitski, a monumental and influential lo-fi indie rock record that would become the blueprint in the years following. A masterpiece from someone who I consider to be one of the greatest songwriters working right now. A poetic and haunting deconstruction and deep dive into coming of age and adolescence, love and abuse, and at the forefront, depression and suicide. Mitski explores these themes so thoroughly and intimately that at points it becomes wholly uncomfortable to listen to. If you haven't given Bury Me at Makeout Creek a listen, do yourself a favor and throw it on right after this. At exactly 30 minutes, you'll be hard-pressed to find another album that can take you through the ringer like this will. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this album and the ideas and concepts Mitski explores here. And most importantly, stay kind.